Only Murders in the Building is back this week with episode 6 of season 5, and we're now officially past the halfway point of the season. With this episode being titled Flatbush, it was mainly centered around the area in which Oliver grew up, but was now the place where Lorraine and Lester had spent the entirety of their lives being settled down and married. With the value of a home and everything that it can hold being something that got a key focus in this episode, and also the big reveal being that the billionaires still had their fingers in all of the pies and are doing all that they could to withhold information about the secret casino and the death of Nikki and Lester. Let's dive into this episode, break down the clues, and explain the ending. Here is Only Murders in the Building Season 5 Episode 6 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The Ending Explained. This episode was all centered around two key things. The first was what a home meant to somebody, which was shown to us through Lorraine selling her and Lester's house. Oliver realizing that he wanted to sell his place in the Arconia and accept the large offer that he received, and also Loretta's apartment burning down and her feeling as though she lost everything. Plus, as well as that, it was also focused around the missing finger that was taken from Charles's apartment, which was noticed after he went to give it to Donna. Within the cup, there was only ice, no finger, so it meant that somebody had broken into his home and took it whilst he wasn't there. There was a large mystery around who potentially took the finger, and what we saw at the end was like many of the other things that were happening in the show, they all connected back to the billionaires, but this one in particular was Bash, the multiple billionaire tech guru. When Mabel spoke with Thee, she found out that there was a light that was coming from apartment 14C late one evening. So when the group went to look at the security footage on Lester the robot, it turned out that it had been edited and cut so that whoever was there when the apartment was broken into, they weren't able to be seen. The big clue here is that the Lester robot security footage had the same logo as what the Last Gasp dating app did, which meant that there was a connection there. With Charles spending the entire episode speaking with somebody called Priscilla and feeling like he was forming a connection with them, especially after telling them about the case, the clues, and what they were uncovering. It was then revealed that the person that owned the Last Gasp dating app was Sebastian, the billionaire, so it showed that he was involved in taking the finger and being responsible for editing the security footage. The edited footage technique is something that was also applied to the time where Lester died as well, because, as we saw in the video, he fell, but there were a couple of glitches that appeared within it which showed that it had been tampered with. So it seems like he was most likely pushed. One theory that has popped into my head is that it could be somebody that we've not even met yet. I say this because, for example, Thee was mentioning about all of the celebrities that had come round to her penthouse, so I wonder if there was somebody that was also involved in the casino nights that happened at the Arconia, and they could be responsible for that death. We know that there's still one more person that hasn't been accounted for that was in the casino on the night that Lester died, as it was originally said that there were 5 people that were down there. So I think there's still more to come with this, and I wonder if this finger could end up belonging to that 5th person that we still don't truly know the identity of. Part of me does think that Randall could be involved in this in some way. He's the doorman and would have the capability of being able to go into the residents' rooms. Plus, he always seems to wear gloves, so I wonder if he's concealing the fact that he's missing a finger. With Mabel, Donna and Charles finding out that he'd been speaking with Bash and not actually Priscilla on the dating app, with Bash saying, "You're a smarty pants, now I need to come and hunt you down." It showed that the ruse was up, and the investigation into the billionaires is something that the group are going to need to continue to do, but on the sly, as they originally threatened them, so they could end up taking legal action against them if they find out. The focus on a home. During this episode, Oliver made the decision that he was going to leave the Arconia. This was following him revisiting where he spent a small part of his childhood, and he saw the unhappy memories that he had when he was there whilst with a foster mother and father. They shut down his passion for creativity and they put a lid on the person that he truly was. We also saw this with Lorraine and the fact that she was selling up the house that she'd spent the entirety of her life in with Lester because she could no longer afford it. Lorraine and Loretta had polar opposite experiences of their homes because Lorraine had all of the materialistic things but not the person that she loved, and Loretta had none of the materialistic things but she still had the person that she loved. And what it ultimately made both Loretta and Oliver realize was that as long as they had each other, that was what truly defined a home. It wasn't necessarily the belongings that were inside of it or anything like that. It was the people that you cared about that shielded you from the troubles of the outside world when everything got on top. Other clues. I feel like there were a few other clues that occurred in this episode. The first is the bird caller that Lorraine handed over to Oliver. This could be the bird that represents the fifth person that's inside of the casino. Plus, I'd also say another clue is the fact that the episode started with music from Tosca being played on the vinyl, and it also featured throughout the episode, such as in Lorraine's home. The main themes that are explored in the opera are those of the abuse of power and corruption, and also love versus politics. This is something that's present within the likes of Lorraine and Sophia's life, with their battle to live a life that they want, but being held back by the politics that their husbands were caught up in. My review of the episode. To be honest, I thought this was just a pretty average episode of Only Murders in the Building. I don't know what it is, but this season just really isn't doing it for me when compared to before. I just feel like we're spending so much time with Mabel, Oliver and Charles in an isolated environment and on their own that it's becoming so difficult to see who the suspects could be. At the moment, it's really only the billionaires, Randall and Howard, at a push, but there's no real hard-coded clues that are pointing towards any of them at the moment, and I feel in the previous seasons there were always a group of characters featured in every episode, which then allowed us to throw guesses at suspects in the group. It's something that often made the show so fun, but this time it's just got a completely different feeling about it. I'd also say that I'm finding Charles's story to be particularly boring and a bit ridiculous if I'm being honest. He's just acting silly and it feels a bit out of character. For example, telling this Priscilla person on the dating app about everything that they were up to just felt odd. They're making him the comic relief, and I didn't expect the character's route to go that way because with people moving on and Mabel gaining her life back, I thought it was going to be one where we got to see him struggling and maybe understand him on a deeper level. One element of the episode that I did quite like though was that many of the stories were split up as the episode was unfolding. I actually found Oliver and Loretta's one the most interesting, and seeing his past and how he felt like an individual that couldn't be himself was something that cut through from a tonal perspective. I don't know whether it's because Oliver usually comes with the laughs and giggles, but seeing a real serious side to him was something that was a contrast, but also it added an emotional edge and showed that in the present day, he felt at home as long as he was with the person that made him feel at home, hence why moving out was an easy decision for him to make. In terms of Mabel and Thea, their rivalry was put to the side and they worked through things, so I am intrigued to see if they're going to find a way to continue being friends or not. I have a feeling that Thea has to be involved in some way in all of this because I feel like she wouldn't have been introduced if she wasn't going to have some kind of value in the reveal of the story. We've only got 4 episodes left, so I'm hoping that the show is going to improve. I'm really confused because episode 9 has already been rated on IMDb and it's been given a very strong rating. So it's piqued my interest, but I don't know if that's an error at the moment. However, the synopsis for it does sound quite interesting. An episode through the perspective of Lester the robot, and I reckon that could be good, as Only Murders in the Building is at its best when it's creative. I just hope in the next episode we get to see some more suspects, some more clues, and a bit more excitement as the trio get closer to solving the case. So, there you have it, Only Murders in the Building Season 5, Episode 6, Ending Explained.